Hello and welcome to The Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host Scott and Toby's here with me. This episode, Toby's telling me about The Shining Girls by Lauren Beukes. It's going to be spoiler free, so continue on and I'll see you on the other side.
Shelf behind you in the corner.
This one?
Other side. The top.
This is Night Shift, which
Okay.
is his first short stories collection, which I haven't read.
No. Yeah, cool. Okay then, so
Toby, what do you have for us?
So my book, I read this many years ago, probably the year it came out, so that would be 2013. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I do remember it being a really good book with some interesting problems when it comes to reading it. So I thought it'd be an interesting one to talk about. So the book I am going to discuss today is The Shining Girls.
Okay, The Shining Girls by Lauren Beukes.
Yeah, Beukes. The Shining. Is it The Shining? Yeah, The Shining Girls by Lauren Beukes. So yeah, this is what we're going to talk about. So Lauren Beukes is obviously an author. She has several books. She's South African. Most of her books all of her books up until this one were set in South Africa. This one's set in Chicago. It was just a little few facts. It was shortlisted for the Crime Writers Association of Goldsboro Gold Digger Award. I don't think it won, but it was nominated, so that's a good thing.
The Gold Digger Award.
Yeah, Goldsboro Gold Digger, Gold Dagger, not Digger. Split there. And some of her other books, Moxieland. Have you read any of Lauren books?
I'd have to Google it. Did she do one about a kind of serial killer that takes the head off a deer and sticks it on a body? I'm not sure if it's her. I'm not sure if I have.
Then she released her first book was Moxieland, then Zoo City, Shining Girls, Broken Monsters.
Oh, so maybe I've read Broken Monsters. The name is certainly familiar. That title is familiar.
Yeah, I've got that here. I haven't read it, but I have got it on my list of ones to read at some point. But yeah, so this one is about a serial killer in 1950s. It's 1931 to 1992 Chicago.
Okay, so it's quite spans time. This one.
Yeah, spans time. So we start. I'll give you a brief overview of what happens without going into too much spoiler details. We have two central characters in the novel. The first one we're introduced to is Harper. And now he is a guy, like a drifter, who is drifting and ends up in Chicago, breaks into a house to, I think, look for drugs or money or just somewhere to stay and all that. So he breaks into this house and looks derelict. When he gets in, I think he kills an old lady to get the key to the house, gets into the house, and then there's a dead body in the house that's been there for a while, like decomposed and properly rotting. And within the room that this dead body is in, that Harper finds, is a load of little trinkets that belong to people. So like birth control tablets, a brooch, a little, like a hobby horse, these sort of just little trinkets that don't fit.
What time zone is this part of the book in?
I believe that is towards the beginning of when it's set, so around the beginning, like 1931.
Okay.
But it's clear that these trinkets don't really fit to that time period. Like some of them are using like the prescription pills, like at that period weren't as prevalent and didn't come in the packaging that these are in the room. Like the hobby horse is made from substances that aren't as prevalent as they are now.
Right.
So that these things look out of place. They're not right. And then while I was in this house, I think he pulls back the curtains and looks out of a window, and the outside is moving quicker. It's weird, like it will go from hot to night to snowing to sunny really quickly, and basically figures out that this house has a doorway. Now, a little bit for our viewers, I love stories about secret doorways or wardrobes that take you to different planets or lands and things like Narnia and what's the Neil Gaiman one? Neverwhere. sort of thing, like just a portal, a door that just shouldn't exist and takes you somewhere. This had that. So this guy's in this house, and he opens this door, and he's able to step out of the door, and it will take him to a different time period in Chicago. So he can go to, well, like I said, the spans 1992 to 1931. So he's around when they're building something, and he stood in the foundations of this building that they're starting to build, and he goes time travels, and then he can get the elevator to the top of the same building on the same day to see the view and that sort of thing and take it all in. So that's quite interesting. So that's Harper, and he basically is our serial killer. Right. He's a nasty, nasty, nasty piece of work, like just rotten to the core. But we don't know why. It's never really explored as to why he is what he is. He just is. He just functions to kill people. And what it turns out that by traveling, by using the house and traveling through time, he develops this ability or skill to seek out certain women that have the shine, if you want to call it, or the shining girls. So there are, when I was reading reviews, there was a lot of reference to how Lauren Beukes' skill is to rinse from Stephen King the idea of a door that takes you somewhere, 1923, whatever it is, which is the JFK version. And then there was another writer as well that I can't remember what it was, but basically she pinches lots of ideas from other people, takes them, and then makes them her own, which is going back to what we were talking about I think 2 weeks ago, when we were discussing there's only one sort of type of story, or a certain amount of type of story, and then it's just a rehashing and retelling in your own voice. So that's what she does really well in this. So this Harper develops this skill to seek out women in time periods that have this shine or this special ability, this glow internally that makes them just slightly, in essence, exactly the same as Danny Torrance with the shine, special abilities, psychic abilities, and that sort of thing. Although it's never really explained again what it is, they just have it. They exude it like an aura that glows yellow rather than purple and blue or something like that. And by killing these women, he takes in that spirit.
Is it kind of like Highlander?
Yeah, in essence, a bit like Highlander. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So he goes, and we basically join him in several chapters. And this is one of the parts that I found most difficult about reading this book, is every chapter starts in a different period with a different person. So Mal, in 29th of April 1988, is one chapter. And then you've got Kirby. If we jump to later on in the book, it's Kirby again. So you've really got to keep an eye on the chapters that you're reading in to tell you who you're reading about and where they are. So like there's Dan, there's all sorts of different characters that pop up. And at first I was just like, what on earth is going on? Well, 1 minute I'm reading about Kirby, and the next thing I'm reading about a woman who could be Kirby, but I didn't notice the chapter heading. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on the chapter headings.
Pay attention on this one.
Yeah. But eventually I got used to it and how it works, and then it all became clear. But at the first sort of 100 pages, I got very confused and a bit perplexed as to what was going on. But so Harper finds this house, finds this door, finds these women, kills them, sucks in their abilities, and takes a trinket with him and leaves them, and then starts putting them in the house with all the other trinkets. He never actually moves the dead body in any way. It just sort of, it's done its thing, decomposed, and is sitting in the corner of the room just rotting away. And then he jumps into some period, I think September 9th, 1980 by the looks of it. And he basically goes on the hunt for this woman called Kirby, which is one of the Shining Girls. We've already witnessed him kill someone in the previous era, in a couple of earlier chapters, and we join Kirby while she's out for a run with her dog, and he captures her, drags her into the bushes, stabs her, cuts her open, and just as he's about to finish her off, the dog comes in and just trashes him and gives Kirby enough time to get away. So she's like,
she's not murdered. She's just attacked.
She's survived. He's the only person out of all the girls that he's killed throughout the years that survived. So she makes a run for it, holding her intestines inside of her, all that sort of thing. So it's really quite graphic. Some of the deaths are horrific.
Sounds quite gruesome detail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does that really, really well. And what Harper likes to do, the serial killer, is to, once he's committed the crime, to then go back to the house and jump forward in time, go back to the scene of the crime, and then have a wank over it.
Lovely.
Yeah, it's quite graphic and at times.
How far would you say we're into it now? Like, are we predominantly following him?
We're predominantly following him in the early chapters until he meets Kirby, and then once Kirby survives, we start to follow her. So Kirby survives this horrific attack. Harper disappears back to his time, and Kirby then survives, gets fixed up, grows up, gets a job as a news reporter, and starts to investigate what happened to her to try and find this guy.
Okay. So,
and then starts to make connections with killings and deaths that had happened many, like 20 years, 30 years, 40 years before, that have all got extreme similarities to the way that
it's the MO of her.
Yes, exactly. So it's this impossible killer versus this impossible survivor. And there's this cat and mouse thing where she's trying to find him. He's trying to find her because he wants to finish the job that he failed to do in the first place. And there's this whole sort of back and forth trying to catch him. I think the character of Kirby, she's again a very strong female character, even though she suffers this horrific attack, the way that she comes back from it and then goes on the hunt. It very much reminds me of I think it was Harper from The Fireman. It's very similar characters. And I noticed that Lauren Beukes has got a good relationship with Joe Hill and Stephen King, and like she's a big fan of their stuff. So you can see similarities between the two. And then we're so that's kind of the bulk of the story. There's this cat and mouse, and she's trying to hunt him down and everything. I won't go into too much detail about how that happens because one, I can't really remember it, but two, it'll be too much spoilers. And then we get to the final chapter, and it ends up in this house. And I particularly remember reading the end of it and being like, that was an amazing ending. Like, she nailed the ending. Like, a lot of people speaking and especially stack the ending in some way. It doesn't quite pay off, where this one really paid off. Like there's a whole battle with the time travel and the house and the doors and all of that sort of thing. And it's really clever. And then you have a sort of a Saw-esque twist at the end to do with the dead body, which is quite cool.
Okay.
So it all kind of folds back in on itself and ties itself up quite nicely, which is really good. So yeah, that's kind of all I have to say on the actual narrative of the story and what happens. But it's very well written. The characters are good, apart from Harper, who is, I think, deliberately not well explored or developed, because he is this mysterious drifter. You don't really find anything about his past. He just kills for the sake of killing and the enjoyment of killing. And then Harper just gets a bit between the teeth and goes after him.
It sounds like quite a thrilling, but like quite a page.
Yeah, it's definitely a thriller. It's a gory thriller. So yeah, it's a very enjoyable book. I was gripped. It was one of those, when you can't put it down, it just bosh through it very quickly. And I remember when I finished it and I'd read the ending, and I was so enamored with the way that she'd written the ending that I tweeted her and said, look, the ending is amazing in your book, really well done. And she goes, I'm so glad. She replied and said, I'm so glad you liked it. It's for people like you that I write. So I was like, wait.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so it's nice when the author gets back to you. But I haven't read any more of her books, but I do intend to at some point.
So it sounds like there's a lot of violence in this book. Two questions come to mind.
Yep.
You said it's quite graphic, but does it play out in a sort of horror form, or in a more of a, not police procedural, but more like I guess the difference between Saw and Silence of the Lambs almost?
Yes, that's more of it.
Playing for horror?
That's the other one. Sorry. When I was saying that she rinsed from The Shining, Silences of the Lambs is the other one that she'd rinsed from when they were rinsing it, or borrowing stuff. So yeah, the graphic nature of the killings is pretty horrific. There's a lot of
insides becoming outsides
and squirting all over the insides. And there is a chapter called Dan, but I think that might be the assistant that she ropes in, her friend. I'm not 100% certain because I can't quite remember. But I think, yeah, the majority of people that die, if or all of them, apart from certain people, one or two, are women.
And you said she's South African, right?
Yes. She couldn't set it in South Africa was because the time travel element, going back to South Africa in 1937 is not the same as jumping back to Chicago, like the playground.
No, right. Does the book ever go forward in time from when it's written? Like it's set now and we go back in time, but we never go into our future?
No. It's always, it caps off at sort of 1992.
The years it goes to, does it feel like there's a significance for those? Like when she wrote the book, she had to backtrack to how old certain characters would be.
She was very well. The book was very well regarded for its an in-depth study and knowledge of Chicago of that time.
Okay,
so it uses. So she's done a hefty amount of research, and apparently, from what I remember and have read, the time periods lend themselves quite nicely to having this serial killer that's able to jump through time. So like the juxtaposition about stalking someone in 1980 versus stalking someone in 1930 is quite nice.
How, like most people, well, not most people, but a lot of murder mysteries would try and keep suspense for a certain amount of time. But she really seems to, that's not what she's going for, is a sort of whodunit. Yeah,
it's very, the central question is how the hell is this killer in 1937 and in 1992 able to do?
So can the Shining girls, can they time jump?
No, they're just girls that have
just something in them, but they can't use that something. Okay, and I think you did say, but I kind of blipped it. What is the time traveling mechanism?
The door.
But it's one door.
You go in and out of it.
I guess the interesting thing you said was that he can go like to the bottom of a building in his era, jump to the future when there's like a quick lift, take the lift up, and then go back in time. But so that door, any door, he can make any door.
No, if I remember right, it's just the door in the house. So,
so it teleports him in space as well. Like it's like,
I think so. It's like I can't remember exactly how he chooses where to get off. Maybe
but so like every time he goes through the door, is he in the same space? No. Like is he in the farmhouse?
If he steps out of the front door, he's in the street that's outside the front door, but in a different time period.
Okay.
Go back to the house at the end of every killing.
Okay, but it can take him places. I guess I'm confused how like he can get in and out of the elevator, for example.
Well, he's
exactly always in the same house. Yeah.
So if say I went out my front door and went to a new building that's being made now and it wasn't finished, and then came home, shut my door, said I want to go 2 years from now, open the door again, and then travel back to the building site, the building would have been finished, and then you just go in.
Oh, okay, I see. So you always have to start off at like 0 point and just make your way there on foot.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. I think I just got a bit confused that he could sort of turn any door.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I see. Yeah. So there's quite a lot of gruesome violence, but is there action done well, like tension?
Yeah. Well, like I said, the end sequence is all action.
Okay.
And some people have argued that it's a bit silly and ridiculous and falls apart, but I didn't see that. I thoroughly was just breathless reading that last couple of chapters, because you follow Kirby and her hunt for this guy, and she finally got him. It was, yeah.
One thing I find about action books when the action goes on too long is that I lose my place in the action. There's an example, I can't remember what it's called. It's whoever wrote the Rambo book. He did a cool book about sort of people breaking into an abandoned building and just for the fun and getting caught in. And the last quarter is action, but it gets so heavy and goes on for so long. It's like suddenly they're shooting through their ceiling to get at the guy on top, and I didn't even know he was above them.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And it's you sort of read quickly and move on, and you kind of say it doesn't matter. By them shooting up, you know he's above them, but you didn't know that. And in my head, I'm going, how long was he there? What was the last scene if that's this scene? Do you ever feel, does it ever become an issue in that? I guess it's not really an action book per se. It's a book that has an action climax.
No. The only thing that, like I said earlier on, is the chapters, like the time periods and who you're with. Because I didn't know, because I just didn't read the chapters. I just read the text and forgot about the chapters. And then I remember going from reading about Kirby to reading about Mao, and then Mao was dead, and I was like, oh crap. But not realising that we'd switch characters and the time periods and all that sort of thing. So, like I said, it got confusing at first, but I eventually got the grip. I think it took about 4 or 5 chapters before I realised what was going on, if you know what I mean.
Okay. How big is the cast of like secondary characters? Like how big does the world open up?
I think I can't remember exactly, but I know she has one person that she really puts a lot of faith in. I think that guy's Dan. He works at the newspaper with her and gets embroiled in it, and it becomes quite a partner in crime, as it were, with her. He's always trying to stop her from doing anything stupid and all that sort of thing. So cares for her a lot. So the first chapter is like Harper, then you get another one with Harper, then 2 with Kirby, then one with Mal, then one with Dan, and it was all over the place at first, and I was just like, what? Like I say, it's very good. It definitely, those that like Stephen King or Joe Hill will enjoy this book, because there is massive elements.
You talked early, I mean, the book's called The Shining Girls, and there's sort of no point saying that The Shining has sort of been not coined, but like that when people hear The Shining, I think I heard about this roughly the same time as Dr. Sleep coming out. Is that right? Were they?
Yes, that would be about right, actually. I think Dr. Sleep.
So I do remember this book and being like, is that the sequel? But the way you talk, it sounds like she pays homage to these and she puts it out there forefront.
Yeah.
Like she's not trying to hide it. She's saying, I love these things. This is my take on this.
Yeah, these people are my inspirations. Yeah.
Does it feel too close to the bone?
No, I think she straddles the line really, really well. I didn't come away from reading that thinking, oh, that was a bit like Stephen King, and I wrote a bit like that. It's only when I read about it today, I was like, oh, actually, yeah, good point.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't something you knew going in or forefront.
No. Like you were saying, themes, to talk about themes from books, like what is the theme of this serial killer? It's really hard to define. I don't know.
I guess one question was going to be, because I listened to a podcast about what happens afterwards, assuming she survives, do you believe she goes on to live a happy life, or is it this is too defining? Whether the book implies it or not, there's quite a depressing existence for her for the next 10 years to get over this. Like, what happens next?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it doesn't really touch on that, if I remember rightly. I think it just ends with the main guy, with the battle, and then that's kind of it. Yeah. The key is waiting for him on the front porch, and barely on the threshold of the closed door, splattered with snow and bloodstain. Is the last line. So it literally is just
the immediate survival of this situation. Like, I guess because she's attacked fairly young, and then we sort of cut to her, and she's very invested in her life. Defined by this.
Yeah,
where was she going, I guess, before all this happened to her? without these events, would you follow this character on her adventures? Like, how well written is she?
Yeah, she's developed really well, very strong. And she does, like you say, she becomes invested, and it is her life, like, to the detriment of everything and everyone around her. Like, she has no friends apart from this Dan guy. She's very isolated, anxious because of this attack, which she rightly would be. But then to find out that this guy's still out there and is hunting her and can travel through freaking time. Like, what? But I like that. So I like those types of books with the fanciful elements and that amalgamate genres, horror and
just blend. It sounds like it blends a lot of things you like into one book.
Yes, definitely. Oh, the rights, just for a little Easter egg, were bought up by MCR Appian Way, which is Leonardo DiCaprio's production company, in 2013, and he hasn't done anything with them. So.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think that's quite a prevalent thing of, companies buying up the rights quickly because it's doable, but going into action or just holding those rights, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which is an odd one, but it's really good. I would highly recommend it for anybody that is a fan of Stephen King, Joe Hill. I would give it a 8.
Okay, you seem like it's quite a thrilling, enjoyable ride. Definitely.
Yeah, that's about it. I think all I've got to say on this. The Girl Who Wouldn't Die, hunting a killer who shouldn't exist.
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again next time. Till then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.